siendo ya una tradición por tercer año. Coincidiendo con Sonar, tenemos a Cenk de Elektron, que como es una gente que no para de sacar novedades muy apetitosas, pues siempre, digamos, tenemos novedades para presentar, y este año nos vamos a centrar en sus dos últimos productos. Uno sería Analog Hit, que ya lleva unos meses con nosotros, que es un procesador en estéreo con filtro, distorsión y tal, bastante flexible. Y el último producto disponible por parte de Elektron, que es Digitakt, que es una sampler, caja de ritmo, secuenciador MIDI, muy compacto y muy divertido. Habría un tercer producto que es el Analog Drive, que no lo hemos traído porque gran parte, digamos, de lo que es capaz de hacer Analog Drive lo podemos hacer con Hit, y es un producto un poco más orientado para guitarristas y tal, y aquí estamos un poco más por tecnología musical. Así que no me enrollo más y os dejo con Cenk. Muchas gracias.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, yeah, okay, cool, thanks. So I've got the machine set up here. We have the Digitakt in the middle, kind of like everything goes through it, and then the output is connected to the heat. The heat is at the end of the signal chain. That's how I wanted to set it up. Then the Digitakt sends, well, it's connected to send MIDI information to the mono machine and then to the analog heat. So you can sequence them and also do some parameter locks on the CC, or the MIDI control change. And you can also do program change. So it's a very nice setup to have it like this. And then the OP1 is actually sending MIDI over USB through the Canton box, so that I can use the OP1 as like a controller for the Digitakt. So I can play keyboard, and you can see it's flashing. This is the MIDI track, for example. I could select the kick track, and I could play it like that, or switch to another track. Yeah, this is really a cool way to input notes into it very quickly. And what I really like doing is that you can actually use the OP1 sequencers to actually send MIDI stuff into it, and it will trigger, and then you can change the track, and which track that you have will respond to the incoming MIDI data. It's a really nice compact way to work, so that you can select the mono machine should be on MIDI channel, let's see, 4, and it should work, but it doesn't right now. I don't know why. We'll have a look at it later on. So the Digitakt is like an 8-track drum sampler. It's a sampler, and you also have 8 MIDI tracks on top. It's 16 tracks altogether. One of the really cool things about it is that you can sample very easily into it. So you have the recorder page located right here, and you can see the source is kind of picking up stuff because the mono machine is going into the inputs, and then the OP1 output is also going into the other inputs. So I'm using the two inputs as like two separate mono sources. Like it's labeled as left and right, but I'm using as like two mono sources here. And also when you sample into the Digitakt, it samples in mono, so it doesn't really matter. And if you got like a stereo input from your phone or some other source, then the left and right will be summed up into one track as a mono. So I got the radio hooked up on the OP1 into it. But let's try to find something like some kind of speech. Let's see here. Yeah. So all you need to do is just press yes, and that will activate the threshold recording. And the threshold is already met, so as soon as I press yes, you start recording. And then
perquè es comenci a fabricar i a concentrar urani, perquè ja Alemanya en aquella època ja no n'exportava gens perquè se'l quedava per la seva pròpia...
So then you press yes, that was enough, for example, and now I have the sample here. It's very easy, and then you could preview it. It's already a very nice start there, actually.
Carta lliure i un pressupost gairebé il·limitat perquè es comenci a fabricar i a concentrar...
And on this page, you get to trim your audio. You can see it on the screen very easily where the start point is, for example. And then you could go maybe pick another. You can zoom out as well. So you can, it's very easy to, and you can also go really into the detail and pick out like a 0 point. So it doesn't have that click. Now it does, but now it doesn't. So it's very neat to be able to cut your samples before saving it onto your plus drive. But I won't actually capture the whole, save the whole recording that I made. So I just press yes, and it asks me a file name. So you can call it, let's call it radio talk. Radio talk, yeah. So now it's kind of saving. And now it asks me where to assign the sample. And so I'm going to choose track 8. And now that sample is assigned there. It's quite simple. There's another method of doing this which I think is really interesting. Once I've recorded a long portion of a sample like this, so I could like trim, let's say I want to get this sound. I wonder what he's saying there. So you can like press yes and it's trimmed it. You can see it on the screen in a closer way, so you can like really fine tune to exact start here. And you can save it. I'll just call it a random name, it doesn't matter. And now it asks me to assign to another sample, another track. I assign it to track 7. So now the trick here is if I exit the recorder page, and if I go back in, the whole sample is there. So you can pick out little bits of your whole recording and then assign them to the tracks. This is a very easy way to sample and then assign to your tracks, I think. Because you don't have to individually record and save all the hits that you're planning to do. For example, you could have a modular gear and you got like 8 sounds that you want to record in there, so you could just activate record, trig those sounds, and you have 8 one-shots there, and then you could cut and save and assign to your tracks. It's a really cool way to do it, I think. So, as I said, you have 8 audio tracks on the Digitakt, and you have about 5 pages to edit. For example, the first one is a trig page where you decide the notes. This page is very related to the sequencer trigs, so you can change the note of it. You can also, trigger your filter envelope or the LFO, the velocity, the length of the trig, and you also have the trig conditions. We'll come to that later on. The next page is the source page, where you get to see the sample. This is a very easy way to view your, what you have on the memory for that track. And you can change the start point. Of course, you can change the tuning. It's very cool because it's high resolution. And you have bit reduction. And then you have like a playback parameter, and you have 4 selections here. By default is set to forward. Then you have reverse, which it starts from the end of the sample that you've assigned the parameter to be by the length parameter. So as you play in reverse basically. And you have a loop mode, which is forward loop. You can do this stuff. This is very cool. So let's see, for example, you have this sound, and then you have a chromatic mode where you can play this back chromatically. So any type of sound that you put in there by this re-triggering a very small part of the sample trick, you can turn it into some kind of a waveform, and it acts like a synthesizer. And I really enjoy that feature, actually. Then other parameters that you have, you can select which sample that you want. This is, yeah. And the cool thing is, when I change the sample, other parameters are not affected. So I still have this weird setting that's with the looping back, and I could browse through samples and hear different results. Yeah. And of course, all these parameters that I'm showing can be parameter locked in the sequencer, automated. So you have a lot of freedom to mess around with the sample that you loaded. And then you have start and end point. Well, start and length point, actually. Then you have a loop parameter, so you can decide where to loop from and a level. Then the next is the filter page. The filter has got high pass and low pass for now. Maybe in the future there'll be some other modes. Hopefully, I'm hoping to see more. We'll see. And then you have an LFO, which is really nice. Not an LFO, sorry, the envelope. So you can see on the screen how the envelope shape it's going to be. This is a really nice touch, I think. And of course, this digital filter is available for 8 tracks, and they're all independent to each other, just like on other boxes that we make. Next is you have an amp page where you have an envelope, attack, hold, and decay. And it's kind of like a normal standard amp envelope. What's cool is you have a digital overdrive, and this is per track. We should actually demonstrate it on another sound. Yeah, for example, this kick. It's got a lot of filtering, so let's turn the filter up. So there's no filtering now. And there's already overdrive assigned, but I can assign more. So that's with full amount, and that's without. So it adds a lot of body to the sound. And what I find is that personally, when I combine it with the bit reduction and the overdrive, you can get some really dirty kicks like this. And with the filter, you can tame those overtones, or so to say, the noise that's created in the signal. Then you could combine it with the filter. So this is like filtered now. And you have the filter envelope. So you can, by assigning a very small, like a very small decay at the beginning, and turn the envelope depth for the filter on, you get like this tick at the beginning of the sound. It's a really, I find it very useful to come up with stronger kicks than what I've loaded in there. So it gives you a lot of room to change the loaded samples in. So we looked at the overdrive. Then let's go back to this track. Yeah. So you have reverb and delay, send effects. So these effects are like one for the whole pattern. So you have to send into it. It's not individual tracks. So that's the reverb, and you access the settings like this. And you can set it even like the decay to infinite. This is a really nice way to mess around. And then you have a filter, high pass and a low pass. Then you have a shelving gain, so they can tame the high frequencies. And let's turn the reverb send off and turn delay. The graphics are really nice, I think, that you can see. And then this is how the delay sound. It's a stereo delay, so you can do it like ping pong. This has a lot of dimension to the overall sound of the Digitakt, I think, because it's a mono. The samples are played back in mono, but the unit is in stereo, of course. So each track can be panned, and you have digital effects. And you also have an LFO that you can assign it to the panning to have a bit more stereo image, if that is your thing. So just because the sample playback is mono, it's not like a one-dimensional sounding machine. It's not at all like that. What I really dig about the delay engine is instead of moving in like full increments, you can like really tune, I think this is like the first in the Elektron machines to be able to have a delay engine like this, because on the, for example, the mono machine, you only have 127 steps for the delay time. But here you have a lot more. So I think it's, yeah, you can get much more interesting. The delay engine is really cool, I think, on this one. It's like, yeah. And then we have an LFO. This is cool. Before I do that, I'm going to clear the track. So I'll get rid of this pad sound because it was like somebody speaking on the radio. So let's clear the track settings and load back in the sample that's we recorded and saved and named it as radio talk.
Carta lliure I un pressupost gairebé il·limitat.
So the LFO is, you can assign LFO into any of the parameters that I've been showing you. You have various waveforms like triangle, sine, sol, ramp, and random, and some more. You have a very detailed control for the speeds, time multiplier, and the speed value. Again, this speed value is very detailed. It's a higher resolution encoder that gives you very nice control over the speed of it. Then you have various modes to trigger the LFO, which that means that you can use the LFO as like an envelope generator, which is really, really cool, especially for like the overdrive. You can use the ramp LFO assigned to the overdrive, so the overdrive will just jump at the beginning of the sound when you trigger it. Let's see, and then, so let's assign it to the tune. Yeah. So that's the tune up, going up and down, but the LFO can be really fast. It's kind of like scratching. Oh. I haven't heard this one before. This is like we're quite close to scratching actually. Yeah. It's going to get a funny result in playing the sample playback. That's pretty neat. So what I find in this machine, the more I use it, is that LFOs are really important because I've been getting these weird granular and very processed type of sounds just by assigning the LFO to different parameters. So that's what happens to the tune. It's actually the first time I tried it in this way. Let's try the play mode. This is something that I like. Before I do it, I want to clear the LFO page. So you can clear and copy and paste all the pages by just pressing the page and copy, clear, paste functions, which are actually record and playback buttons, but they go into copy, clear, and paste. So I could clear that, and I can even undo. So this can be a performance thing as well. So you could like trigger the sound. Oh, it's not working. Let's see this one. Yep. So when it's triggered, you get the idea. You can do all that trick. This is a pretty cool way to do it, I think. So let's do the play mode. This is the one I really like. If you set the LFO very slow, let's set it for like triggering the LFO each time I trigger it, so the LFO is restarted. So you can get some crazy results like that. It's a bit weird to get it started though. Here we go, something's happening. Yeah, stuff like this. So yeah, the LFOs are really, you can make some clever stuff like that, I think. And stuff that the original, the sample playback page that doesn't do, you can trick it, and by assigning very fast LFO to the other parameters, you can get some cool results. You also have a fade parameter also. That's something to check out. Let's assign it to tune again. Set the speed very fast. So it's this. And so I'm going to set it so that the LFO is triggered. And then the fade is...
Perquè hi ha la en aquella època.
Or you can like fade the LFO in.
Perquè hi ha Alemanya en aquella època.
Yeah, does all that weird stuff, yeah. So that's what you get for each of the tracks. So you got 8 times of this. On top of that, you have an awesome sequencer that can go up to 64 steps, but with the trig conditions, you can make phrases and patterns that are much more longer than that. Especially there are some preset patterns that I'd like to show later on that is actually like a composition. So you press the play button and you listen to the pattern for like three times, like it loops, and every time you get a different track playing because you can set the trigs to be triggered in some different times. You can add randomization and stuff. We can have a look at that actually now. Let's see what pattern I have here. So there isn't anything. Let's go to, let's see. There was one. Where is that one? I don't have it here. Anyway, we pick another sample here, this one. So yeah, you have the sequencer as I was saying. And let's mute these tracks. Why is it not playing? Yeah. So on this track, you can see that I've got these steps, and I can change the sequence that I'm visualizing by pressing the page button. So it's like a 4-bar loop, and you're hearing these different chords. They're achieved by the parameter lock. So if I hold this, I can see that there's a value assigned, and that is triggering a different part of the long sample. Instead of showing it like this, maybe I should do it from scratch. And so here we go. So let's add a bit more reverb and delay. And so you can, by holding the step, you can change, for example, the pitch of the sample just for that hit. You can even change which sample that you want to play for this step. Or maybe. So it's basically, the sequencer is very tied up to the sound engine, and you can add a lot of different automation to each of the tracks. So let's assign this chord there, and we can extend the sequence to 32 steps now. And on the second bar of this, I'm going to pick a different part of the sample. And here we go. That didn't sound very nice, so pick another point. Yeah, that's okay. So that was 32 steps. I'm going to make it 64. So now I can make like a progression out of this thing to make it more interesting that you're going to listen over some time. So this is the third bar now. Yep. And we pick another one here now. Let's pick this at the end and see how that sounds. Yeah. Yeah. And you can hear that when the trigger is being triggered, like, you know, you have different start points assigned. You sometimes get the clicking sound because the sample isn't either finished at a 0 point or something. You can assign the envelope, like give it a bit of attack, and I find that it helps a lot with those clicking issues that you would get in sample playback machines. Yeah, the now is kind of gone. Let's see here. Yeah, it's much better now. But if I set the attack to 0, we'll hear it more now maybe. Yeah, there you go. That's very obvious there. So you can fix that with just having a bit of attack to the sound. And maybe we change the delay a bit, make it stereo. Ping pong, that's stereo. So that's how the sequencer works, and you have 8 tracks of audio and then 8 tracks of MIDI as well. So we could go to the kick track and maybe select the kick sound. While I'm going through this, if you guys got any questions, you just have to say stop and, well, do you have any questions? No. No, good. Was I really good in explaining that? I don't. You guys just... So let's just find this kick we're talking of. Let's see. Yeah, let's use that one. So So I'm using the filters, shape it up a bit, you know. I really like using the envelope of the amp envelope because you have the hold value, and then I put a sharp decay. So I can just make sure, you know, trim the kick so it doesn't bleed so much. Because of the sharp decay, I don't get this tail. And that makes it a bit more sharper, I think, and cleaner in the mix somehow. And we got some overdrive too. Yeah. Quickly, let's find a snare. Yeah, that's nice. I like to add bit reduction because all those things come up. Maybe tune it down. And maybe change the envelope for it too. And you can hear that at the start of the sample there is this body to it, so you can fine-tune the start point to get different snares actually. Yeah. I mean, these parameters are very high resolution, so you can really fine-tune where you want the sample to start.
Is it possible to make a zoom in this page or no?
Sorry?
Is possible?
You need the microphone, I think.
¿Está funcionando? Sí. Toma, toma el micrófono.
Now.
Hi, Cenk. Hey, my question is it possible to make a zoom in this page, or you only can make zooms in another page of sampler?
You mean zooming into the waveform?
Yes.
You can't zoom on this page. But I know this is something that we talked, and it would be nice to have it in there. Maybe one day, who knows? But it's, yeah, it would be nice. But you can zoom in the recorder page, like I showed you before, because this is where you're cutting the recorded sound. But here it's more of like what you have in the memory, and then you decide how you want to play that back in the track or per step. So, but yeah, no zoom. Probably won't happen. Maybe, I don't know. Yeah. So we got, what did we have? We had this melody. Yeah, another thing that is cool is, I mean, it's you load in any sound into it, so you can load in a waveform, like some here. We've got a lot of stuff when you first open the Digitakt. There's a factory content is really nice. We have a lot of waveforms, a lot of drum hits, and some synths because we label it as a drum machine because it's kind of built for that drum sampler. But of course, you can load in synth sounds, and I love doing that. But so yeah, the factory content has got a lot of stuff to play with, and especially the waveforms. There are some kind of FM-ish type of stuff and traditional waveforms. It's really nice. So I've got one of the factory waveforms here, and what's the name of it? It's Ein Sign. Okay. And so I'm going to set the loop playback on. Oh, sorry, that was yeah. Here we go. So now it's like looping, and you can see on the screen that it is. You can even change the length of it to get this type of effects. So you can like go into the chromatic mode. So it's, yeah, I've loaded in a sine wave, and it's looping, and then it's going through the digital filter. It has an envelope. You have the digital overdrive. You have the send effects. You have an envelope, and you have an LFO. Well, yeah, it's a very creative box because whatever you load in, it's like you can shape it very nicely. Yeah, and then you could tap in these things and record into the sequence. I think this would be. Let's see here. Yeah, let's try doing that actually. So I'm going to use the LFO as like an envelope generator. So I'm going to select the length parameter, and see if I have some depth. And I'm going to set the LFO to trig when I trig the sound. And it doesn't really start, the LFO doesn't start the moment that I want, so you've got like a start phase of the LFO. So it starts, you know, you can change that. And you can also set it for like one shot. Yeah. So So you can really slow it down and you can do all this stuff. So it's basically gives you a lot of ways to change the sound. What I really like doing is adding a bit of vibrato to it. It's kind of like I'm a bit of a sucker to that effect. Yeah, always, yes. And when you add reverb and delay to this, it should sound nice, I think. We haven't even touched the bit reduction, maybe. In the filter also. So let's make use of the filter envelope as well. Getting carried away because we had a chord structure, we need to do something, so let's go back to where we were, something like this, and let's put a short decay on it. On the envelope, it's nice to mention this note thing appearing. You see, when I move the hold value, it's disappearing, because when it doesn't have the note sign, this value, then the length of the hold value is just as it is. So it will play this long, no matter as much as I hold the step. But if it has the note, the note sign, it's dependent on how long I've been pressing it. And this is very related to the sequencer actually, if you're gonna make riffs out of this sound. So let's try to do that. Yeah, let's just put some steps in, I guess. Let's see. Let's change the tune. And we could change the notes. So you can hold the step and then assign different notes. Yep. So I'm just like picking random notes. So it's very easy to come up with these type of sequences so quick. So then you could go to the kick track and just put and while the machine is running, you can select samples from your plus drive, assign them to your project, keep on tweaking. Yeah, you don't have to stop the machine. I can even like turn the radio on now and sample from it while it's playing. All these stuff are totally possible. Let's try adding some stuff to it. So I just picked the sound. Yeah, it's kind of sounds shit. Doesn't sound good. So let's make it nicer like this. And what's cool is that you can put some steps, do some real-time recording. I'm going to twist the velocity parameter, so it's going to have different velocities on the hi-hat. And maybe add some more steps in, and do it again. And one of the really cool stuff about the sequencer is each of the tracks can have a different step length, allowing you to make polymetric sequences. So the hi-hats is set to 16. Well, every track was set to 16, apart from the chord, which is 64 steps. So the hi-hats, this track was hi-hat, yeah, it's set to 16 steps, but I'll set it for like maybe 14. So that, yeah, it's gonna have a bit of a interesting groove, hopefully. And maybe change the pitch of it. Yeah, because now it's sounding more interesting to me at least. And let's put it. Yeah. You have a really cool re-triggering function. So you hold the step, pressing up and down access you to the re-triggering menu. You can hear like there's a. So let's add some few other re-trigs. Yeah, this is really quick to come up with this stuff, I think. Let's try the filtering a bit. Reverb to this. Now I would really actually like to use the panning effect, for example. Let's assign the pan parameter to the LFO and make it quite fast. Yeah, this should be working now. I can't really hear it here, but yeah. And yeah. And yeah, you could go to the next track and put some offbeat. What I really like doing is you put some random steps into the sequencer, like this, for example. That's too much, this, like that. And then while it's playing, you could scroll through the sample page. That's quite cool now. Let's see. So now I've got a very basic 16 step, but I want to make this musically, not so repetitive. So then I could use the trig conditions. The simplest way to explain the trig condition is that each step can have a percentage of chance triggering that step. So this is the sequence we have with this, what sound is it? It's a cowbell, and it's called soft, or something, I don't know. Maybe it's not cowbell, but and so I can like hold the step and then say, I want to have 25% chance of triggering this one. On this one, I want to have a chance of 59% of triggering that. It's a very quick way to do this. Like you would copy this step. So when I do this button combo, you press the step and then copy. You copy the information on that step, and then you could paste it around. So now I'm going to have a bit more interesting cowbell track. Yeah. And I could assign like different parameters to each of the tricks. They see this one should have a lot of reverb. This one is going to have a different tuning, like lower tuning, more overdrive to it, so it's audible. This one is going to have a lot of delay. And I'm going to reverse this one. Yep, that was a reverse, and tune it down a bit. And maybe I could have a little re-triggering one here. Like, yep. And I'm going to assign 25% chance of triggering that. So we need some snares now. Let's go to the snare track, and yeah, it's okay. Yeah. So each of the steps can carry a lot of data, as I've been showing you, like the automation, the re-triggering. You can also nudge the steps out of the grid. Yeah, it's a step sequencer, but you can nudge it. You have a feature called micro timing. So you hold the step, press left and right to access, and you can see it says on grid. Now you can nudge it around. This is really cool to get a looser beats. These type of sequences, if they're like very locked, then it can be a bit stale maybe. But let's try this feature. So we're on the snare track here, yeah, and it's only 16 steps. Let's nudge it a bit. Let's do too much. Yeah. Yeah, I can hear that's a bit different now. So I'm going to extend it to 64 steps and nudge them differently on all of them. So it's like maybe you have a drummer playing, maybe that type of thing. And what I really like doing is adding like a little fill here at the end of the bar, the bar. Yeah. So I will hold them and assign maybe filter to this, some reverb and delay. And this little fill that I made, I don't want it to come every 4 bars. You can set it so that this fill can come every, 3 out of 3 counters. You can set it to like come every 2nd out of 4 or 3 out of 5. This results in like rhythms that are not actually boring to listen in a long time. It's my personal way to explain it. Yeah. And then let's go to the clap track. We don't have anything here. Let's see here. I don't know if this is gonna work. Maybe if we pitch this up and very short. Yeah. Yeah, let's see here. Yeah, this track can be 64 steps, and that comes in there. Yeah. So now we made like a okay pattern. It's very easy to save on the Digitakt. This is actually my favorite thing because it's so easier to explain to people now. All you need to do is just press function and yes, and it's now saved. You can even rename the pattern. Let's call it Cutoff. Yes, Cutoff. And it's displayed there. So when you're like choosing which pattern to play, you can instantly see. So you can have like a bit of clue. Jumpy is this sound, and awake is that, and bright, radio jazz and stuff. It's So Cutoff where we are. So it's very easy to have a general overview of your patterns by just checking out which one it is and how they're named. Now, so we've saved the pattern, and now maybe we could have a look at the control all mode. That's kind of from the machine drum. What it does is you have 8 tracks of audio, and you want to maybe control all of them at the same time. Maybe change the pitch, filter them, add overdrive, or even change the whole 8-track samples. Change the assignment of them. So you can all do that. It's pretty crazy actually. So you hold the track button, and then you twist the knobs. While you're doing that, you're affecting all tracks. If you let it go, you're only affecting the track that you are focused on. So you change tracks like this, and I'm only editing this one, I'm only editing that one. But when you're tweaking parameters and then that's how it happens. So let's have a look at that. Let's maybe filter everything down. More resonance maybe. Yeah, this is actually pretty sounding interesting. So I'm going to shorten every track's envelope, the filter envelope, and I'm going to assign a bit of filter envelope to everything now. It's really cool to change the attack parameter right now, because now everything's going to have a bit of slope of the filter opening. And let's say you can change the old tuning of the tracks. Let's open the filter a bit. You could reverse everything. And you have like an endpoint, so everything just like playing clicks now. What's cool now is that you can actually have the looping mode for all the tracks. Very powerful to change the stuff that you made on the machine, I think. Let's try changing the samples that is assigned. And when you feel that it's the time to go back into the save state, all you need to do is just press function and null. Yeah. So this can be used as a great tool to perform your patterns that you've made. Lately I've been discovering that you can easily copy your pattern and then you could paste it. So you have that feature, and then you also have an undo feature. So if you keep on pressing the paste pattern command, you do undo, and then paste. You only have one undo, but you can use this as like a performance tool. So let's try that. So we have this beat that we made, of course. So I'm going to filter it down again. Or maybe, no, let's do something else. Change the tuning, lower every tuning down. And have like a shorter deck. Yeah, this is pretty interesting. Let's apply overdrive to all the tracks. Yes. And so that's good, I'm happy with that. So now I'm going to copy this into the buffer. It says copy pattern on the screen. That's cool. So now I could maybe make it even do more changes to the sound. Let's change the samples, for example. But now I can do the paste. So now I am at the place that I was at. So I could do paste again to undo it. So I can do that. So I could like go back here and then maybe change it to something else. And paste in what I had before in the memory. And then go back to what it was before. And when I'm bored of this thing, you could just do the pattern reload with function and null. And that's where you are now. So it's like, yeah, kind of like a bit of a secret buffer abuse type of thing happening. So you can copy it, the state of the pattern, and then paste it back and then take it back. And it's worth mentioning that when you do the save pattern, you're saving everything. You're saving the 8 audio track settings, 8 MIDI track settings, and the sequence. So what I could do, let's actually do that too, is you have the sequence, this is it. So I'm just going to add a lot of random steps. Yeah, it sounds amazing now. What I can do, I can just like press function and null, and the sequence is loaded as well. So you know, with this machine, you're not really that afraid of like going into the sequence, because that is, the sequence is part of the pattern as well, which you save into. I think that's a really cool feature, because I'm just not scared. As long as I remember to save before going crazy, then you can get back to the point that you've made. I think it's a really nice way to perform your stuff. And when you save, you can store your tempo settings. So before on the other Elektron machines, you couldn't save the BPM per pattern, but now you can. This is really good. You can, of course, have a global pattern setting. So it doesn't mean that, let's say you're going to play somewhere and you want to play every pattern at 128 BPM. You can do that also, because you just need to press function and yes, and now it says global pattern. And the global tempo is set to 106, and you see it on the display. If you press function and yes again, you go into the pattern mode. Now this pattern is set to 120 BPM. That's how we saved it as. If I go to another one, it's 123, and etc. For me, this is a godsend. This is really, really good, I think. Another thing that I really like about pattern management and saving is you have the mute modes. You have 2 mute modes, actually. Let's start with this. You have the first one is the green one, which is a global mute mode, just like the global BPM. It's the same thing. So this mute mode is not dependent on the pattern you are selecting. But the purple mode is the one that you can save it per pattern, and which I've done. So on this pattern, bright is called, this is the mute state that I have. And when I press play, it sounds exactly as I want. And when the time is right, I can go and unleash the other tracks. So let's go to another pattern. Here I've only got number 5. And this is how it sounds like. I mean, this is a great way to perform, actually. For me, it's been like really, really awesome, easy way to do it. So, doing a gig scenario, all I need to do is select this pattern, and I don't need to even think about which is muted or anything. I know when I press play, this pattern will start in a way that is good to improvise and build on. Another pattern, yeah, it's got different states. Yeah, and that's a really cool, a helpful feature to have in a machine like this. Now let's talk about the MIDI side of things. I mean, does anybody have any more questions? No? Yeah, you do.
But maybe you said at the beginning, but I wasn't here. My question is, what's the capacity of the sampler?
Very good question.
Thank you.
It's you have 1 GB of storage, and it's just the storage. Then you have 64 megabytes to work in one setting. So you have 64 megabytes of RAM to work with. You have 1 GB storage, and from that storage you pick the samples that you want, put it into 64 megabytes of RAM, and that is saved within your project. You have this button here that you go into the project, and then you have projects, so you can see that I have various projects saved. And each of those projects can have different set of samples, which the maximum limit is 64 megabytes. Yeah.
When you record on the when you record on the recorder, that goes to the plus drive or goes to the RAM?
It first goes to the plus drive.
And then when you assign the track, goes to the RAM?
Yes,
okay.
Exactly. Because you remember when I sampled the radio and saved, it has, what's the name? You press yes. At that moment, it's recorded, written into the plus drive. Then it says, do you want to assign it to a track? At that moment, it's assigned to the project and to the pattern. Yes.
Okay.
It's behind the scenes type of thing, which makes the whole operation much enjoyable, because as a sampler, you should be able to sample, save, and assign very quickly, and it does that very well, I think. Yeah. Then, to talking about storage, we could talk about how to transfer your samples also. You can record, of course. You can, alternatively, you can send your samples over USB into the Digitakt. Yes, it has USB, which also will be used for overbridge in the future. The way that we send samples is we have got this new app called Transfer, and it's much faster because we send it in some way that it was slow before. Some users, maybe rhythm users, may know that the sample transfer was slow, but on this one we managed to fix it with this new app, and it's much faster now. And hopefully in the future the rhythm will be compatible with this, but yeah, I think it's going to happen very soon. So that's how you can do it, and when you record into it, you only record up to 33 seconds. Yeah, there is that limit, but if you want to drag and drop 5-minute recording, yeah, you can do that over USB. Yeah, it should be okay. But then you got 64 megabytes of roof on top. But mind you, 64 megabyte may not sound much, but you remember it's mono sample playback, so it's double the time. That it's I think it's around 10 or 11 minutes or something like that. Yeah. If it was stereo, it would be half that simply. Yeah. And personally, I have not been having any problem with 64 megabytes at all. But one thing that I have been having is issue with is you only have 128 slots per project as a sample assigned. So you can assign only 128 or 27 samples per project. Yeah, as a drum machine is kind of a bit limited, and we're aware of that, and hopefully we're wanting to offer a solution. So yeah, if you guys or viewers are not, it's a kind of a problem for them as much as it is for me, then yeah, there may be a fix for it, and I'm hoping so. Fingers crossed. It should be a nice fix.
I have another question.
Yes, please. Yeah.
It's about also storage.
Yes.
I'm kind of obsessed with that.
Cool.
And I know we're pretty extreme sometimes when we like the machines. Can you erase the ones that come factory or not?
We can't erase the factory ones. The
There
factory
you go.
ones are really good. We've got like 400 samples, and especially a lot of awesome synthetic drum sounds that is like very exclusive to the Digitakt actually. And one of our wonderful colleagues in the office, he made them. He made a lot of sounds on his workspace, and yeah, it's awesome sounds. I mean, I would say he's the guy that he did the most, and some of us other applied more sounds. It's worth mentioning that we also got acoustic drum sounds, which are from the company called That Sound. They're nice. It's in there. So if you want acoustic drums, I think you get quite a few hits in there. I think a couple of or 3 hits in total. Not really sure of the number. So yeah, the acoustic drums are in there, synthetic drums and weird stuff, sine waves and all the other waveforms that you can loop, FM type of waveforms. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in there, and I don't think it takes much of the space anyway. They're only one. Yeah, it's only one-shot mono samples. Yeah, exactly. And talking about that is, so now I've built a lot of patterns in this project. Let's have a look at them. For example, this one. There's this beat here. Here, there's this. There's this one with a nice beat, etc. So I've made a lot of music on this thing, and I'm actually still using the presets, the preset projects, meaning that I'm actually using 82 samples from the factory content, and I can still make my own music without getting bored. And on top of that, on top of the 82 samples, I think it's 82, let me double check this, I want to be right. It was 81. Then, so it's up to 81, it's full of with factory sounds. Then you have the rest is like you can sample anything into it. So I've been using the factory content a lot in my music, and it's really working out. So I think it's a very good collection. Let's see here. So we were talking about the MIDI before we have any more questions. I guess not, but MIDI is most wanted. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Hi again. Again. The first question is about song mode, if there are some kind of song mode in this machine. And another question was in the line of the campaign.
Length.
Bueno, estaba hablando sobre el modo canción, ¿sí? ¿No se me ha entendido? ¿No? Y después el compañero estaba hablando sobre... No, sobre el tema de la memoria, si puedes pasar los bancos al ordenador, los patrones.
Yes, if you can transfer... If you can transfer the banks that are in the machine to the computer.
You mean the patterns you've made?
Patterns? Or
Yes, you can. Yeah. Well, yeah. Right now, yeah. Soon, I'll say. That's all I can say. Right now, you can't really do that. Yeah.
I think so.
But it's gonna happen. You'll be able to take your patterns out of the machine.
2 days ago, I was in Elektron site, and I saw a software that you can transfer.
Is it an official software? Oh, you mean this software that is called Transfer?
Yeah.
That is only for putting samples into the Digitakt from your computer. To get your data out of the machine, we're still working on that. It's going to happen, but right now just make music on it. I don't know.
Don't use your computer.
Yeah, I don't know. It's, you're asking good questions. That's what it is. Yeah. Song mode. Yeah, there is no song mode on this one. You have chain mode. So you can, for example, let's go to this bank. Say you want to play this pattern. Oops, sorry. This pattern, that pattern, that, like this. So you can chain it. So now it's going to chain the patterns. You can do that, but there isn't such a sophisticated song mode as the other machines had. Yeah, that's all I can say for now. Yeah. But of course, what you can do is, if you have a computer, you can send program changes into it, and they will follow which pattern to be played at. So you can emulate as kind of a song mode via another sequencer or a computer to send program changes at the right time of the song. That can happen. But internally, it doesn't have that feature. Yeah. I mean, it's it's a different lineup compared to these ones. You know, the old. Well, this is an old mono machine, but you know what I'm saying. So that's good.
This machine is most oriented to live act, right? It's not like studio stuff or something like that.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I would say it's actually very suited for both. Right now, because it doesn't have the overbridge implementation yet, I wouldn't say it's a very strong studio tool, because you can't multi-track this out yet, but you will be able to. We're working on that. I can't say any time, but it's not that far away. That's what I can say. Then, so when the overbridge is out, you'll be able to connect USB into your computer, and you will have the 8 audio tracks streaming into your computer. So you can use it in a studio format like that. The kick is separate, the snare, etc. So you can add your own plugins, effects to the tracks. You can record it multi-track. But that feature isn't available now. So yeah, you could say that it is right now is more suited to live performing, but you can just, what I would tend to do at home is always put the left and right into your sound card, get a very good mix of the pattern that you have, save it, function and yes. Then yeah, you can just perform on it, unmute, mute, change the stuff. Then you got like a recording session for like 10 minutes or 8 minutes. You can cut the good parts. You could work like that. I mean, I'm sure you will get very good results like that. I'm very, very sure. If you do that with the USB function, then you will get 8 individual recordings of the tracks, and that's going to be very powerful then. So you record your jam as audio, but 8 individual tracks. So if the snare was too loud at the time, well, you just zoom in there, drop the snare a bit for that hits, and yeah, it's totally possible. So it's going to be a very good, good studio tool when the overbridge hits, I would say. Yeah, and not to mention that you have 8 MIDI tracks, so you'll be able to control a lot of gear in your studio. That feature is working right now, and we're working very hard to make it smoother. It's going to be very, very cool when it's like really done. And so you'll be able to sequence, hardware boxes, yeah, but imagine you'll be able to sequence your VSTI plugins, such as this badass, what is it called? Native Instruments Synth Massive, for example. Yeah, I'm not really clued up with those things, but I know there's a lot of plugins. So you'll be able to use the sequencer of the Digitakt to control up to 8 sources, and you can do the tricks like assigning different MIDI CC value per step, which we can actually do that. We've been talking a lot about that, and yeah, we haven't seen anything of it. So yeah, it's very easy. So I've got the pattern saying there's mono MIDI. I know which one I'm looking at. On the previous machines, I did have a bit of a problem to find, but now this is very smooth, I think. So yeah, what we have here is, this is the track for the mono machine. So I've got the keyboard hooked up. And I have a very basic sequence here that it's playing. So if I turn, sound is coming from the mono machine, it's going into one of the inputs, and I could see it here on the recorder page. So if I get something nice going on, I can instantly press function and the recorder page, which means the command direct. Then you start sampling immediately. This is a really cool feature actually. You can sample very quickly on this. You just press function on the page, on the recorder page, and you start sampling. If you press stop, and now you have the sample here. Okay, it should have previewed, but it didn't. Oh, because I was on a MIDI track, that's why. That's a bit. So now here is the sample that I've been recording. Yeah. Let's go back to the MIDI track. Yeah, so we have that simple sequence. On the MIDI page, you have like a note page where you get to see which note that you're triggering. It's very nice. And you can have up to 4 notes playing per step. So you can like choose what type of chord you want, but you'll have to put notes into the sequencer to be able to hear the results. But yeah. So you can like design your chord like this, and then you get to see on the screen what chord you're pressing. It's a quite handy feature to have, especially for people like me that doesn't understand keys. You have velocity and length and trick conditions on the MIDI tracks also. So each of the tricks can have like a probability or more interesting sequences. Then following the next page, you have information that says MIDI channel, and then you have program change. So this program change can be locked per step. This is really crazy actually. So let's say that this is playing and the mono machine is like not in waiting, no, it's receiving MIDI basically. So I could change the program change and the pattern will change, resulting in different sounds. That's nice. So you can actually flick through your sounds here. And what's cool is you can even actually automate this. So let's see, I'm going to put here, I want this program here, that one there. Yeah, this is, let's see how it's going to sound. Yeah. It's pretty interesting and weird. And I can see on the screen that it is changing. So you can go into real-time record mode and mess around with the program change, like this. So now I'm getting like, yeah. You get some really cool grooves like this. Yes?
When you go out, you have a
Wait.
I think when you go out on the video and go internally in, you have something like a song mode now.
Where? We don't have song mode on
No,
this.
but this way you have a kind of a sound mode. Because you're using your own media about triggering your own tracks, which pattern you want to have.
But the thing is, I think when people say song mode, especially when we're talking out here, is that
More long.
yeah, it's more long, and I mean, it's like basically a playlist of your patterns. Yeah, you want the pattern A5 to play 10 times at this BPM
Yeah, but
with
you
these
can do
mutes.
Going out with your media, go giving your
No,
own trigger.
it's not the same thing. Maybe I'm not explaining to you as clear, but no, song mode is much more sophisticated than that. You can mimic a song mode on this, but the thing is you'll have to be manning the machine. The whole point of the song mode is that it will man itself. You know, it'll do it. It'll perform for you, like the song. Yeah. Yes.
3 questions. Can
Yes.
you play chords on the keyboards on the mini board?
Mm-hmm.
So you can play here.
What's going on? Wait. Because of the program change. Okay, let's get to where we were first.
So you don't
Here
need
we are.
for inputting chords. You don't need every time like to design the chord. You can actually play it. On
Yes, you can. So I'm pressing a chord, and let's copy this, clear it. So now you press real-time record, and then press chords. Yeah, it has actually recorded the notes. Yes, I can see it on the screen. Yes, yeah, you can do that. So you can record chords into the sequence, up to 4 notes per step. Yeah.
Okay. Then in the true mode, can you control the mix of the inputs, like sending sends to the reverb, like in the other machines?
Very, very good. Yeah. I wish you could, but that doesn't mean that it's never going to happen. Maybe it will happen. Hopefully. What I can say is that, I mean, it should be possible, and it would be fun to have, and hopefully one day.
So it just goes through the inputs now.
Right now, all I do is I put the monitor on, the monitor on, so that whatever you play is being fed into the mix.
Okay.
Yep.
And then the last question. I've never been so expert on the Octatrack, but the Octatrack, I understand that this function that you actually is a quantized recording. So you hit record before the end of the pattern, and when the pattern starts, it starts recording, and then when it stops, the record is out.
Sync
which
record.
is very good if you're actually sequencing or if you're actually playing with some real musician. Actually,
Yes.
and not by to play with some real musician. So like it would be good to have like the quantized recording so they can actually keep playing, and then when the pattern is out, it just cuts the recording. Does it work like that, or you actually have to be very fast and very precise?
You have to be very precise. At the end of the day, it's an instrument. You have to play it very precisely. Yeah, so it's a feature, not a bug. But yeah, it doesn't do sync record. Okay. Not now. Maybe, hopefully, it would be very nice to have that. Who knows? But right now, we offer threshold recording. So you set it, you arm it, and as soon as the input passes the threshold that you've set the recorder to be triggered, then it starts recording. So that's good, because then what you can do is you can set the threshold very low. Which one is it? Okay, here we go, this one. And when I press play, the threshold is met. So it will start recording as soon as I press play. So you can capture it at the beginning of the beat, but you'll have to stop it yourself. And then
the machine and you start the recorder, and then you actually trim the loop.
Yeah. Yes. Thanks. Thank you. Right. So yeah, we're sequencing it. Okay, let's see here.
Hey, Cenk.
Yeah.
Again, me.
Hey.
So the machine have 8 audio tracks, right? And 24 multitimbrical, right? MIDI parts.
So sorry?
So you have 8 audio tracks and 24 multitimbrical parts of MIDI, right? Because you have 4 notes for each channel. If you have 8 channels, you have 24 notes, no, in MIDI. 4 times 8 is 32. So you up to 32. Mejor,
yeah.
32.
Yes.
So the machine have 32. Sorry. ¿Cómo se dice? Multitimbrical parts in MIDI. ¿Verdad?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's 8 audio and 8 MIDI tracks, 16 tracks in total.
And 32 notas, 32 notes simultaneously.
Well, I mean, each Yeah, the MIDI will send 32 notes altogether. Technically, that's what the specs are, but you can't do that on a single MIDI track. The single MIDI tracks allows only 4 notes of polyphony per track. So yeah, on one step, on the MIDI track, you can have 4 notes of chord structure. But if you program it, 8 tracks at the same time, then you can blast out 32 massive chord. Bah, yeah, you can do that. Yeah, so we were talking about the MIDI. So this is like the MIDI sequence is going to the analog 4. Some other tracks playing in the Digitakt also. But so you have like 2 pages where on this page you assign which MIDI CC value that you want to control of the octa track, the mono machine, or it could be another synthesizer. I brought the mono machine because I like it. You could plug in any synth and it will do the same thing. So here I've assigned it so that this is like the filter page on the mono machine. So somehow it's not sounding as it should do, because I think I've been changing something on this, that's why. Let's try reloading this. Yeah, this is sounding okay now. So now, this is the filter. Yeah. You got the resonance and all this can be recorded into the sequence, so you can do real-time recording. And let's try the envelopes. And I can see on the mono machine that the controls are showing how it's been changed. So it's not only like note sequencing your external gear, you can automate all the parameters, well, up to 8 MIDI CC values. Yeah, you can make all this stuff, and you also have pitch bands, aftertouch modulation, and breath control. The mono machine responds to those very nicely because it has the joystick support. So the pitch band, for example, and the breath control is actually assigned to changing the waveform of the synth. It's like noise now, yeah, and now it's like pulse, and yeah, you can do. And of course, this can be all recorded into the sequencer. Yeah, and on top of this, we have the analog heat here, but we should have a nicer pattern to mess with the analog heat. Let's see. We shouldn't forget that you also have an LFO for each of the MIDI tracks. So the Digitakt actually has 16 LFOs running at the same one time. Let's try assigning this sound some CC values. I've never tried this. Let's see what's going to happen. Interesting. Okay. Yeah. So you can assign LFO to the parameters and they will change, but yeah. Yeah, that's kind of like audible what's happening. Yeah. It's not a very good example, but I don't know what happened there. So we were looking at the analog heat. So the output of the Digitakt is going into the analog heat. Let's pick. Let's see. Let's actually pick this one. This is it's a nice thing that happened last night. So I had the radio of the OP1 going into Digitakt, and I recorded this jazz stuff. It was really nice at the time hearing this. So it's kind of like a bit loopy, but a bit weird. And this is the beat that I made on top of it. Yeah, it kind of works. But what then I thought of doing is trying to mimic compression, sidechain compression type, like ducking effect on this jazz loop. So what I did is the LFO trick assigned to the volume, and I've got like a ramp, like a saw waveform to the LFO, and it's in sync with the BPM. And so I'm going to have like a depth of like -64 now. Actually, we'll hear that. And before I go further, is the LFO is being triggered each time the sound is triggered. So the LFO is tightly in sync with it. And so this is how it is, but if I have it to depth, like, you get the idea now, yeah. So you can do this, but now it sounds really together with the beat, I think. So you can actually mimic this thing with the clever use of the LFO, actually, I think. Let's see what happens if I change the speed of it. Yeah. And maybe really fast. Yeah, you can do weird stuff like that. Yeah. And so the analog heat is in the mix here.
In the mix.
So you can turn it on, and then, yeah, so you can make it louder like this. But this is not a good example again because there's already some weird thing happening. Let's try this pattern. Yeah, this is very good. So we've got the saturation character here, and it's used like the envelope. So like the drive parameter is ducking each time the kick comes in. This gives you a really nice feeling to the overall sound because of the heat compressing it, I think. Kind of compressing it. And change the character. And when you turn it off, this is it. What I really like doing is making the source really angry with one of these extreme characters and feeding like a bit of dry wet into it. So yeah, it really takes it to the next stage, I think, straight away. And using the filter to maybe enhance on the low ends. And maybe I yeah, so you can make it really angry here. But what I wanted to show you is that you can actually automate this thing, the analog heat. So let's go back to the MIDI pattern that we have. And let's go to this track here, which is set to, this MIDI channel is set to channel 16. And the mono machine channel was set to 4. So each of them can have different channels, very easy to set. So you can control a lot of external stuff with this. So I'm going to control this. So I've got steps in here. What I really like doing is messing around with the character selection. So you can actually even automate that. So let's do real-time recording and twist the knob that controls this. We can't hear the result because the active button is off, so let's hear it. Actually, let's start again, because we already have some stuff there. Let's record again. Yeah. So you can sequence even the character page. It may not be very musical, but it allows you to do it. But what's really cool is actually sequencing the filter. So let's try doing that. I'll turn the filter off now and mess around with it. So now I can see on the screen how it's being changed. So if I turn the filter off, well, let's see how it's going to sound. And maybe I could try messing around with the character also. Maybe other parameters too. Yeah, so it's pretty experimental to modulate the analog heat, but yeah, this example wasn't so good, but you get the idea is that with its MIDI tracks, you can control a lot of external gear, and it really comes in handy in these situations. I mean, it can work as like a master of the studio of like a central hub, especially combining that you can actually sample this thing, what you've made. And that's another cool thing actually we should look into is, let's see here. Yeah, let's look into this track here. Turn the analog heat off. Oh no, that's not right. Yeah. So this is what was coming from the mono machine, and this is the internal thing, the drum, and that's mono machine. You know, you could resample the whole thing that you're hearing. That's a really cool feature actually. So I select internal sampling, set the threshold really low, press yes, and now it's armed. So as soon as I press play, I'll recapture everything that has been played. So it's really cool to be able to sequence MIDI gear with this because you can capture what you're doing. You could set, of course, just to record the inputs, but I want to capture the whole thing. What happened now? Oh, that's right. Let's see here. That's interesting because, yeah, you need to set the external in first so that you hear the mono machine. We're now hearing it. But if I set to record the internal, then you don't get to hear the incoming audio. This is something that I just figured out now. So yeah, there must be another option. That's another request, so that you will be able to record external and internal maybe at the same time. So you can record external audio. It's just like I armed it. Oops, what's going on? Stop it, and then set the threshold like this. So it's armed. So I can capture what I made on the mono machine pretty easily like this. So I stop it. So now I have this phrase. So I could save this as like, let's call it mono mad. And it's going to ask me where to assign. So now it's saved into the plus drive. If I select the track, it's assigned to the project. And now it's here. But there are different settings on the track, so we clear them. And this is what we had. So now I can just place one trig here at the beginning of the bar. So it's going to play what has exactly been sampled from mono machine, so I can get rid of that. I don't need it anymore. I need to set the what do you call the envelope to infinite. Yeah. So you can do this, and now it gives me a possibility to remix what I've captured from this machine. Yeah. You can make interesting stuff quite easily by locking different start points of what you captured. Oh. Reverse it maybe. Wow. Yeah. So now I could actually resample it because I'm not getting any input. So yeah, I could change internal, internal sampling, arm it and press play. So now that's resampled, and we call it whatever. Save it, assign it, and now, yeah. So the whole thing is only one track now. So I could like clear this sequence, just put one trig at the beginning. Yeah. So you can treat, by resampling, you can like, if you got 7 tracks or 8 tracks playing, you can mix down into one like this and start remixing that too, which that gives you a lot of interesting results actually. Let's try it out. And maybe you have different start points. And do some looping. And pitch it down. Yeah. And there's the clicking going on because it's a sampler, so you could use the attack to tame them a bit. Yeah, a bit, maybe mess around with the other settings of the envelope. And this is also related to where the sample is being picked to play at, because I've got different random start points of it. But as you can hear, it's like a very good way to come up with sounds that you never thought of. questions? No? Well, so that's the Digitakt. Oh, you have?
I have a question. How much time did you spend with the machine to control it like that?
Yeah, quite a lot actually. It's like, you know, started as a hobby. Now
Yeah.
it's kind of like full-time job.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I've been playing this for quite a long time now actually. I mean,
There you go.
I need to be able to do this. It's,
Congratulations.
thank
you
you,
did
thank
really
you.
good.
Thank you, man. But it's really fun to mess around with it. So it's not like I do this because it's work. There's a lot of passion into it that all these sounds and this culture, the electronic music thing, it's the thing that keeps me alive in a way. And it's great that Elektron exists to make these so user-friendly and magic devices where, in my experience, what I have in my head, I can just reflect it on the machine without thinking so much. I've never not been able to find that elsewhere. For me, this has worked. For others, it's other platforms. You know, everybody's got their own way of thinking and making music. For me, it's really top quality. Yeah. So I guess this is it then. Thank you for coming. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you very much. So yeah, if you guys are at Sonar Day, we've got a booth there. And if you want to win a Digitakt, well, it's your chance. You just have to come and play the game. Yes, yeah. Because we don't work much, we only play games. So yes, welcome. Yes.